Hey, it's Yasuki Wolf, and you may know that I work as a game artist in Japan, and it's been a while since I put up a video because if you've seen my last video that I put out, I suddenly needed to find a new job. And I won't go too much into the details of that. If you want to hear about what happened there, go ahead and check out my last video. But for this video, what I want to talk about is the experience that I've had if for the last month or maybe 2 months or so looking for a new job and changing jobs in Japan. So this is all going to be about job hunting in Japan. So there are three, maybe four methods that I know of for finding work in Japan. And now keep in mind, I'm not speaking about just working like part-time jobs. I'm not talking about working as an English teacher. I'm sure there's tons of videos that'll talk to you about that, about like if like when you first come to Japan, the very first thing you do is you might teach English or find some kind of part-time job you could do. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like career jobs. So for example, a game designer or game artist, and I'm speaking specifically as my experience as a game artist, but this is pretty much par for the course for any kind of career position in Japan. And this is not specifically for foreigners, not for people coming into Japan. This is actually what the process is like for people living in Japan, going through the same process as native Japanese born citizens. So anyways, getting to it, there are three, maybe four methods. The first method is you can apply directly through a company website. You may also be able to apply directly by going to the company. I would not suggest that. I've never heard of that actually happening, so I don't really think that's really a thing. I haven't actually lived as an adult in America very much, so I don't really know how you would apply in America, if you could actually go to a company and directly apply or not. But in Japan, yeah, you wouldn't actually directly go to the company. The most direct you could probably do is go directly to their website, and then if their website has a section for recruit, and in Japanese it's called saiyou. If I remember, I'll try to put some of these words in the description. Actually, let me take a note here so that I know which words I need to put in the description. So sorry for the noise. Saiyou. So it usually be called a saiyou page, and I'll put that in the description. So that's generally going to be the page that's going to have the information for applying for work, and usually it will be in Japanese. There are a few sites that will have it an English page, but a lot of times it's always only going to be in Japanese. And in there probably going to be an entry form that you fill out, and you just hope that they see it. They usually will have descriptions for which type of jobs they have available. I think that's pretty standard. I think America and other countries probably do pretty much the same thing, so there's no real surprise there. The second way you can apply is through a job hunting website, and now these sites, it's called I think they're usually called recruiting sites or recruit sites, and they'll usually have they usually have two categories. It's shinsotsu. Sotsugo means to graduate, so shinsotsu means a new graduates, right? So you would apply as a new graduate, or tenshoku, and tenshoku means changing jobs. Is there a better word for that in English? Well, to switch from one job to another, right? So that's tenshoku. I'll put that also in the description. So those words were shinsotsu and tenshoku. All right, and so you go to the page and you would pick which category you're in, and then you make a profile. It's kind of like a dating site, to be honest. It's basically like you make a profile, and then you click on the people or the companies that you like, and it will show them your information, and then they could contact you back. And I think most of the time, at least in my experience, the site I was using, it was called Recruit Green. If I remember, I might put the link for that. Actually, yeah, let me go ahead and put a link for that. And I was using that a lot this time, and I had a lot of good luck with that, actually. It might have been because of my experience of being here for a while and having a fair amount of work experience. I don't know if it would be the same right off the bat, but at least this time when I was trying it, I was getting a lot of good luck with that, and it seemed that almost 9 out of 10 times people would respond. They may respond to say they're not interested, but they would still respond. I think that may be something particular to Japan, that for the most part, they're very polite and very considerate, and they generally will give you a response for the most part, one way or the other. So that's the second that was the second way that you could apply through the websites. And now the third way is to use an agent. And now this is kind of special for Japan. Maybe let me know if places you live have a similar type of kind of system or not. But you actually go to an agent or an agency, and there'll be an agent that'll be there'll be an agent that'll be responsible for you, right? And they will help you find work. Basically, what you do is you give your agent your resume, your portfolio, and everything, and then they'll actually look it over and say, this is pretty good, or this is not very good, or maybe you should fix this part or that part. And some of the really good ones, like I've gone to a couple different agents, and I found one agent called it's actually just called Recruit. It's a very generic name, but they actually gave me a mock interview where they had me come in and give my spiel like I was interviewing for a job, and then they gave me advice. And this is actually something I think I'll talk about it in this video, but I may actually make it in another video in the future if people are interested. But it really changed my whole approach to looking for work, because up until that point I kind of thought of interviews as being like this test where they're gonna give me all these questions and I have to answer the questions right. But when they gave me that mock interview and they talked to me afterwards, they explained to me that actually it's more, don't think of the interview as you're just gonna sit down and answer the questions they have. Think of it as a presentation, and you're going there to present your product, which is yourself. So think of yourself as your product. And I mean, this could be a whole nother video just talking about having approaching interviews and whatnot. But I found that really changed the way that I approached video interviews, and it made it a lot more productive and actually enjoyable for me. Because up until that point, I think it was very stressful. But that kind of just gave me a new perspective on it. And I'll try to go into that maybe a little bit in the future. But for now, let's just say so that's the agents. They will look over your portfolio. They'll help you out, kind of like fix it up. They want you to get a job, and then they go out there and they'll find a bunch of companies that they think matches what you're looking for. They'll run it by you, and you can say yes or no, and then they'll apply, and then they'll be like the middleman between you and the other companies. They'll get you interviews and everything. And now this is a really important thing to remember, because I think this kind of changed the whole game for me. I spent a lot of time doing the first two ways, which I think is pretty similar to what you guys probably know outside of Japan, of applying through websites, sending emails and whatnot. But I spent a lot of time doing that, and especially my first time when I was looking for work in Japan, and getting absolutely nowhere. I would go to interviews here and there, and it was just kind of not go any further. But then once I got an agent, I got a job within a month, and that's happened every time that I've looked for new work. This time it took about 2 months, but yeah, within about a month or so, I've always been able to find another job through an agent. Whereas doing it without the agent, I spent literally like half a year to, at one point, a whole year. The first time I was looking for work in Japan to get into the game industry, I literally spent a year looking for work and not finding anything. But then when I got the agent, within a month, I got that job. And so now it makes a huge difference. So this is if you would take anything away from this video, if you're looking for work in Japan, my number one advice is to find an agent. And now here's another good thing to keep in mind here. When you hear me talking about this, you're probably wondering, like, wait, I don't have any money for an agent. Like, I don't have a job. I can't afford to hire someone. No, you don't hire an agent in Japan. That's what makes it so wonderful. And let me know if it's like that in other countries. I really don't know. I never applied for work outside of Japan, apart from part-time gigs. So, but I really would like to know. But so this is how it works in Japan. The agent takes a cut of your first paycheck. Oh, no, I'm still saying it wrong. He doesn't take a cut of your first paycheck. He gets paid a percentage from your. Not from. He gets paid a percentage of money, which is based on your paycheck. So basically, if he gets you a really good paycheck, he gets a percentage of that. He or she gets a percentage of that for their pay, and they're paid by the company, not by you. The company hires the agents to look for people to work for them. So it's clicking in your head now, right? It's free. They'll look at your portfolio. They'll help you out, fix it up. They'll possibly give you advice and interview you and everything, and that's all free. And that person only gets paid if they get you a job. So that's why they're super motivated to get you a job, because they're not getting paid unless you get work. And also the kind of flip side of that is that they want you to get a job, and they want you to get a job quickly. So I would say that don't get an agent unless you're really serious about finding work, because if they find something for you, they're gonna be they're not too pushy, but they are gonna try to get you to take the job pretty quickly. And I've actually kind of regretted maybe 2 cases where I had another interview lined up for a place I was really interested in, but then I got they call it naitei, and I'll add that to the list. But naitei means that the company has decided to give you an offer for a position at their company. And I got that offer, but then I still had another company I was interested in. And I was like, oh, I'm really interested in this other company. But the agent's like, oh, well, you got to take this one because you don't know what's going to happen back then. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. I took that one. And then the next time, I think I had another case where I went to an interview, and looking back at it, I had a certain amount of money that I really wanted to get because it's just that's what I felt would be comfortable for my life, for to be able to live comfortably and everything. And I was gonna ask for that, but right before that, I got an offer from another company for less money, and my agent was telling me like, oh no, this is still a good offer, you should take it. And I was like, I don't know, I want to see about this other company. And I went to the other company, and I probably could have said that I wanted the amount of money that I originally wanted, but because of that first situation of the other company offering me less, I ended up going somewhere in between. And they took it like that. They're like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, done. And I was like, afterward, I was like, wait, oh, I probably should have asked for more, you know. And at that point, it was just like that moment of like kind of like, oh, I kind of goofed. But the sad thing about that is that for the next however many years, I was stuck with that paycheck. And one thing about it's a whole other video I'll have to save for another topic, but working in Japan, at least in my experience, it's not easy to get raises. They're very systematic in the way that they give you raises, so there's not a whole lot of negotiation going on, so you don't have to worry too much about having to be a heavy negotiator. But the problem is that even if you get a raise, it's so small and it's in such small increments that it doesn't really add up to be much. So like in the 3 years? No, 2 years. So I worked there for 2 years, and even though I got raises almost every time I was up for review, I never got anywhere close to the amount of money that I wanted to ask for at the very beginning. And if I had asked for it, I'm pretty sure I probably could have even gotten it. So it's like that's a lot of money that you missed out just from that one moment of weakness, I guess. But anyway, so that was the third way, which is agents. Fourth way I mentioned just because it is another way, but is to have inside connections, I guess, to know someone who knows someone, to know someone on the inside that can help you out. I honestly have not had a lot of luck with this, and that's not because I don't know people that are willing to help me out. I've definitely found people that have been willing, pretty much on every occasion where I was looking for new work. There's always been a case where someone was able to like recommend me to their company or whatever. But I don't think this is as important as you might think. I think a lot of people think like that, yeah, having that inside connection, that's really big, but I don't know if it really is. I know on the one side, for me working in a company, I've had people that kind of have contacted me and hoped for me to kind of give them to get them into the company or whatnot. And I say that we really don't have that much push inside these companies for the most part. I mean, unless you happen to know like the CEO or like the vice president, or like you know someone who's like a producer or some like very high level position, they're not going to be able to do much to get you a job. I mean, they could just like, for example, in my experience, most of the time, even when I had someone who knew, even though I knew someone that was on the inside, they would be able to basically just get my resume or my entry form like to the person that does the recruitment. But from that point on, you're treated basically the same as everyone else. I mean, they don't really take it into huge consideration that you happen to know someone that's inside the company. So I mean maybe for smaller companies, but once you get to companies that are over like 30 people or so, it starts getting kind of iffy that that's really going to be that beneficial. So I'd say that, yeah, that's probably better than nothing. But of the 4 methods that I mentioned, the third one, the agent, has been the most has been the best in my experience. So that's the one I recommend the most. I've had this time around, I had a lot more success with the second method, which was going directly to the recruit website, which I will leave the link below, recruit/green or something, I think it was, or green/recruit. But that also, I think it might be because I've had pretty much like 6 years, I think, of experience in the gaming industry now. So I think I have a little bit more impressive of a resume and portfolio than I used to. So I think that may have helped this time, whereas in the past it probably wouldn't have helped as much. And even though I say that, I'm still talking like applying for 20 companies and getting 1 interview from that. So this is still a lot of work. So that also goes back into why I haven't really uploaded videos for a while. You may have noticed is that the time that it takes to do YouTube videos, they have to be 100% focused on job hunting. And the word for job hunting, just in case it comes up, is shushoku. That's shushoku katsudo. Shushoku is your career, your job, and katsudo is the practice of, or like, so shushoku katsudo is the practice of looking for work, for job hunting, right? So that is, I wouldn't say it's a full-time job, but it's a part-time job. So if you have a full-time job, like all the time after that is it's like having a full-time job and then going to your part-time job afterwards. Because when you get home, you have to check your emails, you have to look for replies on the different websites, you have to contact your agent and prepare different documents. And so pardon me. So what do you need to apply? Because so what kind of documents am I talking about? Generally there were 3 things and that I pretty much handed into every place that I applied to. And you may not need all of these if you're not looking to be an artist, but as an artist, first thing, I needed a portfolio. Portfolio is huge as an artist, so you gotta make sure you have a really good portfolio. Have in my case, I demonstrated a very broad skill set. If you may be able to specialize more, but at any rate, you have to have a very professional looking portfolio. Try to your weakest thing is kind of going to hurt you the most, so try to avoid things that are unpolished and don't look fairly good. But also kind of think of the company that you're applying to. I actually made probably 3 or 4 different versions of my portfolio, depending on where I was applying for and what position I was applying for. Like some that are more focused on 3D, and some that are more focused on like what games I designed, or I wrote like game design documents for, so that I could show off like my planning ability and my skill at development, or things that things that are more 2D based. I could focus more on the illustrations, more on different styles of illustrations as well. So like look at the companies you're applying for and think of like what kind of portfolio would be a good fit for that company. I may have to do another video just on making a portfolio in the future, but yeah, so portfolio, that's really big. Next thing is, in Japanese they call it rirekisho, which is basically your resume. I had a really complicated resume when I was doing the shinsotsu, when I was straight from graduating, because at that point you don't really have a career history, so you have to have a pretty impressive resume. And because of that, we actually had a template for our resume that was like 2 pages long, and it included both your work history, and it had like a jikko PR, that means your self PR. Is PR English? Personal. What's PR stand for? But it just like talking about the good things about yourself, right? You have like a whole like paragraph about that, and then talking about your skill sets, and you had to like write, pardon me, you had to write like all these like paragraphs about why you think that you're a good worker and everything. Now that was for shinsotsu. I've learned this time now that for tenshoku, that's actually not as important. Apparently, for tenshoku, a very crisp, simple resume is better. So just having very simple like career experience, what do you call it, education, with as little gaps as possible. You don't really include like part-time work or anything, but basically what colleges you went, like your college career, your college education, and then like your work history from there. And then what's more important than the resume, apparently, when you're doing tenshoku, is something they call the shokumukeirekisho. 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 Hopefully you could hear me pronounce that more or less okay. I'll put that in the description as well. Now I don't know what this is called in English. I think it's called a CV maybe. So once again, I never really looked for work well, at least careers in outside of Japan, so I don't really know the terminology so well. But so this is just basically the description of your career history and what you did at the different companies and work that you did and different projects you've worked on. And this you want to be a little bit more detailed about, like, okay, from this month to this month within this company, I worked on this project, this project, this project. I was responsible for this, this, and this. I had this many people in my team. You know, I was I used these different programs or this different software. So, and then underneath that, I included the jikko PR into my shokumukeirekisho. And the jikko PR, once again, that's your personal PR. What does PR stand for? Someone tell me in the comments. PR has to have come from English, but I can't seem to remember. I think it's press release, but what would a personal press release? I don't think they're using the word right, but yeah, in Japanese they say jikko PR. It means like your personal like appeal points, I guess. So let me write that down. That we have to write jikko PR there as well. Okay, so jikko PR. All right, so you need those three documents, right? Your portfolio, resume, which is rirekisho, and the shokumukeirekisho. You also, if you're using online websites, you also probably will have a lot of forms they have to fill out, just like web forms and stuff, like entry sheets and things like that. And you may want to reference a lot of different like samples online. So I didn't bring this up yet, but you will have to do this in Japanese. Pretty much there may be some companies that will allow you to do this in English, but I'm speaking particularly about companies in Japan that for the most part are not going to translate things for you. So this is all going to have to be in Japanese, and depending on your Japanese level, that may be difficult, it may be easy. I am pretty fluent in Japanese. I'm used to working in Japanese workplaces all the time. I use Japanese pretty much all the time when I'm at work, so I'm fine with using Japanese, but I still am not so great about typing like emails and formal documents, because you may or may not realize it, but the kind of way that the types of words that you use in Japanese change a lot, and just the kind of way that you type things are really a lot different when it's in written form. So I referenced a lot of sites on the web. Sorry, I referenced a lot of like actual Japanese sites like giving advice to just your general like native population of how to write emails and things like that. So for example, if I was doing an entry form, I would usually like type into Google like entry form rei, like tatoe or something like that, and like to see what comes up. And then I would look at that for different samples. When I got my first interview request, I looked up into like Google like mensetsu no naitei space meru, and then it would come up with like mails explaining how to determine the date of your interview. So I'd be like, okay, so this is how I have to reply, and that seems kind of weird that I have to look up for everything, but I think it's because if I just were to apply regularly, like how I would in conversation, and just be like, so we'd like to apply. We'd like if the mail comes in, it says like we'd like to ask you for an interview. When are you available? And I would just be like,そうだね。なんか来週の金曜日ぐらいがいいかな。あとなんかその次のなんか木曜日のなんか夜なんか7時5と以降とか。If I were to like just kind of talk normally and write that in a mail and send it, that would look really rude to them. Like because there's a kind of like business term of like lingo, not really lingo, but it's not even lingo because it's not, they wouldn't speak it. Because that's the weird thing is that if I were to meet them in person, I could probably talk the way that I just did for the most part and be fine. But if I wrote that in an email, all of a sudden like, oh, this person doesn't really know how to write emails, you know. So it, like, for example, for writing emails, it's very, very simple. Just when do you think we can meet? Now, if I were to write that in an email, I can't just write an email asking that. I have to first off, I have to title it, and usually if you're titling it for another company, you'd say it's Maru company. So I'd say Kabushi Gaisha Maru, which Kabushi Gaisha is like company or incorporated. So Kabushi Gaisha Maru, and then I would space and I would who am I talking to? Maybe it's the person it's the person doing the recruitment. So I might say saiyou go tanto, which is like the person who's in charge of recruitment. Let's call him like Tanaka-sama. So you wouldn't say Tanaka-sama, you say sama, Tanaka-sama. Then space, and then it's like itsumo sewa natte orimasu, which is like I'm always being taken care of by you, right? Itsumo sewa natte orimasu, uruf desu, and it's like, okay, I'm always being taken care of you. This is Wolf, and then like let's see here. After that, might say like in regards to like the thing, in regards to the meeting that we talked about the other day, and then it's like space. So do you think we can? When do you have you heard word of when we can meet next? And then space, and then you after that you might say like the ending the sent, like this is all that I have to say for today. Like this is ijo, which means that nothing else after that. And then you might say something like naitei yoshiko onegai itashimasu, is like thank you and please take care of things or something. I don't know how to translate into English, but so just that I want to say that one sentence. I just want to ask one question, but in order to do that, I had to write like a block of text, you know, and send that. So every time you want to communicate when you're doing these mails, it's just there's a lot more to it than you would imagine at first. And so I ended up having like different blocks of text that I would reference fairly often for every step of each interview process and each mail where I was sending mail. So anyways, that was a bit of a tangent. We'll get back on track now. So the process, what is the process that I'm talking about? So first you apply. That's pretty simple. You just fill out an entry form and send it. You can have like a sample entry form that you just tweak a little bit for each company and send it to each one. And then after you send it, you may get a reply saying they're not interested in you, or they may get a reply and they might ask you for your documents. There are cases where if you apply directly to their website, where you might send the stuff on the first step, but most of the time it's just an entry form. You just send them and say like, hey, I'm interested in your company, and then they'll look at your profile either through your agent or through the website that you're using. And if you're using an agent, the agent will probably take care of the entry form stage for all the companies for you, so you don't have to worry about it. If you're using a website, you have to do this though. And then they'll ask you for your documents, and that'll generally be your portfolio, your rirekisho, and your shokumukeirekisho. So you have to have all those three ready to go. And so you send those out, and then they'll usually send a reply saying they're reviewing it. And within about a week, they should get back to you and either ask you for an interview, or they'll say, "Oh, sorry, we're going to pass you over this time," or something. I forgot how the phrasing is. That I think they probably copy paste their stuff too, but it seems like a lot of the companies always send the same basic message all the time when they're letting you go. But anyway, so like then if you get the interview, then they're going to ask you for some dates. So you have to send a mail back again. And this is why I had a lot of just sample mails ready, because you do this very often, where you send a mail back and you specify which days you're going to be available. and then they'll pick one of those days and send it back to you, and then you have to confirm that that is the day that you want, that you're okay with that day. So now that's like 3 or 4 mails you've sent back and forth, right? And now that you got that day, you show up for the interview, take the interview, and definitely kind of want to do another video about just the interviews in general and how my attitude toward interviews changed a lot. But anyways, if you do well in the interview, then regardless, when you get back, I think you should probably send another mail just thanking them for the interview. And then about another week or less time, maybe, they should get back to you and either tell you that some places may say you have the job in one interview, but most places they have 2 interviews, because the first interview is going to be with just the first interview is going to be with the people that you work with, the people that are closest to the position that you're applying for. The second interview is going to be for the more higher ups, possibly even the CEO. And this is where I'm going to have my little story, where I actually, this time when I was interviewing, I had a second interview with one company where I actually met the CEO of that company, and it was pretty interesting because I arrived there, and I wasn't really sure what to do, because I already done my first interview, right, where I had done my whole spiel, like presenting everything about myself and how I thought I would be good for the company and everything. And then the second interview, I was like, okay, what am I gonna do for the second interview? Because I already said my whole spiel. I don't know what I can really bring, what I can present now. And so I arrived there, and they're like, okay, we're going to have a reverse interview. So you have 5 minutes. It might have been 10. I can't remember, but 5 or 10 minutes to get questions ready, and then we're going to come back, and we want you to interview us. And it actually wasn't us; it was the CEO. So the CEO comes in the room, and I had to interview him, and like ask him questions and stuff, and keep a professional stance and everything. And I remember when I got out of that interview, I felt so freaking cool, because I never would have thought, like 10 years ago when I first started studying Japanese, that I would get to the point where I could actually sit down with the CEO of a company and actually interview them in Japanese, and be able to like ask them questions and this is pretty much spur of the moment, because I wasn't, even though I had 5 minutes to prepare, I was just writing like very quick notes, like, oh, ask about this, ask about that. I wasn't writing like how I would ask. So being able to like kind of somewhat professionally ask questions and like hear his responses and then like follow up and everything, and keep that conversation with like the CEO of this game company. And when I got out, I was like, yeah, my Japanese has actually gotten pretty good. Like I handled that pretty well. I mean, I definitely still have my good days and my bad days. I also have an issue where I think you get into like a Japanese zone where everything just clicks really well, but sometimes if you're not in that zone, it's kind of hard. So that's one thing I was trying to do a lot of times before interviews. I would spend some time just thinking in my head 100% in Japanese before I got into the interview, because I noticed like, even like earlier when I was trying to give you examples for the mail, like if I'm talking a lot of English, or like listening to a lot of like drama, or like English dramas, or like radio or something, like then try to switch to Japanese, the Japanese doesn't come up right away. So it's like, it's good to get into that Japanese zone. For daily conversation with like my wife and stuff, it's no, I can switch pretty quick. But like for interview level stuff where you have to have like, you have to use keigo, and that's not stuff you use regularly in your just regular lifestyle in Japan. And I'll have to talk about keigo in the future maybe, but like there's even like stuff that even people living in Japan don't agree about the proper uses of keigo. So anyways, but yeah, so that was pretty cool, and that was the second interview. And so then usually after the second interview, there may be a third depending on the company, but usually after the second or third, you get the final yes or no, like whether they give you the naitei, and naitei is the offer of employment, I guess. And so at that point, then you can decide if you want the company or not, and then you run into the same issues I talked about earlier, where if you don't time things right, you may end up where you have the naitei from one company that that wasn't your number one company, but you still have another company that you're kind of worried about, and you have to kind of weigh that out. Where like like I could ask them to wait, but then they could revoke their offer if I make them wait for too long, because on their side too, like they may only want to hire like one person, and if you're leaving them hanging, you know, like, well, they gotta hire someone, so you know, like you gotta kind of weigh that through. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much the general gist of it. I'm happy to announce that I am going to be starting at a new company this the next month, and I'm pretty happy with it because I'm doing a little bit of a career shift. I'm moving a little bit away from the game design part and more to the game art, just as a full-time artist, which is a little weird because in Japan they call game artists game designers, but well, they call them designers, whereas outside of Japan, a game designer is the person who actually does the documentation for the game. But at any rate, I'm moving more to a full-time art position, which I think is going to be good for me because it frees me up mentally to kind of focus more on my own game design outside of work, because I found that it was a bit stressful to try to do game design within Japanese game companies, and it may not be particular to Japan, it may be all around, but I feel like when you're in a company, the pressures of making a game one particular way, which may not be the way you want to make it, often can be very stressful when you have a certain vision of a certain idea of some kind of game you want to make, and you can't do it that way because of all these kind of external pressures. So I feel like this would kind of free me up to just work on the art and enjoy that whole process of working on art and improving myself as an artist, and then also be able to come home and work on my own game designs freely on my own. So at any rate, I think this video has gone on long enough, and I kind of trailed off in a number of different directions. I think there's a lot of things that we could probably go into more detail about, so let me know if there's parts of that you find interesting and we may talk about in the future. Otherwise, I guess that's all for now. So just take care, and I forgot the intro of my videos because I haven't made a video for so long, but I think it was live boldly and be creative. Till next time, bye bye.